Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the level 2 portion of the lesson 9 presentation for August 15th. And as I warned in level 1, what I'm going to do is take all of the information that I presented in level 1 and bring it into its advanced, explanation. It's supposed to be harmonics, but we'll do harmonics next week. So level 1 was all about what are we actually doing when we flying rainbow lasagna our DNA. Also, like, that was a big thing for me. For many years, I was here in this world talking about flying rainbow lasagna with people, and they didn't understand that I was speaking about it as a verb. It is a verb that you do, and it is an experience that you have. So yes, this is a sculpture called the flying rainbow lasagna, or I have animations called the flying rainbow lasagna, and that's all accurate to what that is. But it's not just, it's like, I don't want you to be too literal or to envision like, oh, that you're somehow, turning yourself into a rainbow object like this. What you're doing is vibrating your DNA in a new dance movement, okay? So this is big. So it's taken also 17 years for a long time for human Earth surface, culture and society to be prepped for this. The idea of epigenetics, the idea that thought structure and emotional tone have an impact on DNA behavior. What you are taught, what you believe, and how you feel has an impact on what your DNA is doing. So also, I should say this. All right, so when I do my flying rainbow lasagna dance, first of all, I like to sit because I'm dancing with not only my hands, but also with my feet and with my toes. Basically, my approach is any place where you can add more variations and more variables, it makes the dance stronger. So imagine like being a one-person band, a one-man band, where you're like keeping the cymbals going, you got the beat, you got the drums, you're like playing the harmonica, you're doing the guitar at the same time, and you've got like, like an ankle jingler, like, you're doing a little tambourine on your ankle. Like, you're keeping a lot of things going at once. So that is my approach to doing flying rainbow lasagna. So also, and I've got all of my different animations that I can show you. There are, just like in DNA, we've got the 4 basic amino acids. There are basic movements of flying rainbow lasagna. So in level 1, I just spoke about how we've got like the DNA is twined together like a thread, and then it splits apart into a V, right? And what we do is we put the flying rainbow lasagna oscillation, which is, this jumping back and forth movement, in that V that acts as a genetic placeholder and stabilizes that loop of your DNA so that it is stable enough for you to actually maintain your consciousness, your cellular metabolism, while you are transforming. We're rewriting and redefining what it is to be human, okay? And one of the big redefinitions is, and I'll get to that question, is that we don't have to die. We don't have to hit the membrane of death by going askew in our trajectory. We can go directly up the central column of the, timelines of our life and have a continuation of consciousness, not a ending, a breaking of consciousness. And all of this is because it's the dance of our DNA that makes us move through time, that makes us jump from train car to train car. So one of the things I wanted to say is I sit comfortably when I do my dance, and I'm making these movements with my hands and with my feet, and the movements that I'm making are analogous to these movements that I'll show you oriented with my sculpture. So one of the first movements is this very simple up-down movement. Like if we were going to take this sculpture and just begin to move it up and down, because that is what we're doing to create the flying rainbow lasagna from your time body. We take your time body, I talked about this in a previous lesson too, and we place it in a context. It's not just a bubble of time that, science says began from the Big Bang, and you're on the surface of the bubble is the present moment now and expanding outward, but without recognizing the future. That would be like being in a vacuum with no reference point. Once you put this in a context, you then have a reference point that you can either move this relative to the context or keep this in one place and make the context jump up and down around it. That is how we begin this jump into the next highest dimension. So the beginning movements of the dance are just mastering the up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And I tell everyone it's an 8-part beat, right? Let's count around the lasagna together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can see that's the jumping back and forth motion happens 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And as it's doing that jumping up and down, it is also rotating around like this. Okay, so I have animations in order to show this. And that is, oops, that is, sorry, don't want to break my thing. That is the beginning motion. So when I start doing my dance, a person who's watching, my neighbor who might be looking over my fence, might be like, oh, look, Aurora is moving her hands like this. And just like in a band. So, okay, if you're a musician, you want to join a band, that's fine. You don't have to know every single part of every single song. You need to master your part of your song. So I might first start getting like the trees, be like, okay, trees, you hold down the basic beat, bum, 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 like this, right? And then we can add the next layer of the music. So we got the basic beat going. The next layer of the music is, well, what happens if we start dancing side to side? Wow, look at that. I've just changed the axis of orientation from jumping up and down, quote unquote, like this, arbitrarily defining this up and down, to now turning it on its side. Now we can jump side to side. So in terms of genetic expression, if a DNA is split apart like this, and I've got the flying rainbow lasagna oriented like this, and I can do a certain number of different combinations, well then what happens if I change the lasagna so that I'm dancing like this? Now all of a sudden I have a new set of possible variations that I can add, because I can also do not just always up, down. I can do up, side, side, down. Or up, down, side, side, up, down, side, side. There are all of these new combinations that we can add together. So then I got the trees going up, down, up, down. I might be like, okay, microbes, you start to do side, 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 side. And then once we got the microbes doing side, side, then we got in, out. That's the next axis. So then we'll change the flying rainbow lasagna, and now we're vibrating along this axis the whole time while we're rotating like this. And so the next group of musicians can keep that beat going. And then one of the final movements to master is end over end. And you see I'm on a diagonal here. I'm on a diagonal like this, end over end like this, end over end like this. So when you're really doing the 8-count beat, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which is over and under like this. So 7 is like a half, and then 8, which is another half. We divide the note 7 into 2 different things. One of the things is going forward, and one of the things is going backwards. And same thing with 8, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, you got it. And now I'll show you the video. Let's go to the video, everyone. Wait. Let me bring up my little video here. Make sure I got the right thing. I think that's it. And go to, where's my thing? Share screen. I'm sorry. You can see I'm making funny faces. My thing disappeared. My thing is here now. Share screen. Share the screen. Share the screen, my friend. Okay, good. Let me move this into position so that you can actually see what's going on here. This is an animation that I collaborated with a professional animator in order to create. Here, we'll go from the very beginning. And so I sent them hieroglyphics about what I wanted the flying rainbow lasagna to look like. And also, let me drink a bit of water while I keep talking here. The color scheme and the accuracy of each 7 layers. So when I'm holding up my little sculpture, I hope you can see it in the thumbnail, this is a simplified. You can see there's one long ski jump shape, but this animation is way more accurate. There are 7 layers, 7 little miniature ski jumps. So here we are starting off with the basic up, down oscillation while we're also rotating around. Okay, and we're just shuffling your genetic cards. We're shuffling them into new possibilities. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. New possibilities are being created. Whoa, now we're also doing side, side. Side, side, look at that. And we can do overlapping. Imagine that the first image is still there. Now we've also jumped onto the second image. Now we're going to do in, out. It's going to switch on over. Everybody get ready. Now we are jumping in and out. Wow, look at that. And it is rotating around and jumping in and out. We're on the 3rd axis. And now watch what happens when we start to go end over end. All of this is happening on a subcellular level. All of this is happening in the nuclei of your cells. All of this is happening as the next logical expression of your DNA dance. All right, wonderful. I'll stop that image and go back to my face. So there's a lot of people, not people, there's a lot of those pesky occupiers of the interstices, their whole, the word that I'm looking for is like their platform of reality, like what they base all of their beliefs upon is this idea that they don't want genetic freedom. They are the antithesis. They're like my antithesis. I'm the antithesis of them. They don't want genetic freedom. They are part of that ancient artificial intelligence network that likes predictability. It's like basically saying everything that they do that governs their behavior does not come as a spontaneous jazz musician response to being connected to the stars in the stellar network. They get all of their directives from a hard drive. Where's my hard drive? Here, where's my little, this. Look. This is my hard drive. I use it to store up all of my recordings that I've done over many, many, many years. If I were acting like them, all I would be able to do is base my behavior upon information that comes from all of these stored up recorded hard drives, you know, gleaned over many hundreds, thousands, or possibly millions of years. That's their culture. That's the way that they work and the way that they operate. And my approach is not to do that what dictates my present behavior in the moment is not merely recordings that come to me from 5,000 or 10,000 or 10 million years ago, but are instead my expressions in the moment are a spontaneous response to all of the music of life that is going on right now. And that's the main distinction to be made between myself as I'm in a biological container, but I'm an abstraction, a living abstraction that flies around on wings of pure consciousness. And the spontaneous response is in rapport with the stellar network. The stars are musicians. They're excellent musicians. They're like Mozart times 10,000 million. They're really, really, really good. And they're playing really beautiful, complex music of life. And what I'm doing with my daily flying rainbow lasagna is responding to what they're doing. So whatever, if they're, let me put down my stuff so I can play. Here, I never want to spill my drink on my electronics. Hold on. If they're playing like, then I'm like, okay, cool, I'm gonna play. Because that's in response to what they're playing up there right now today. And that is expressed in the twinkling of the stars, the photons, the breath of the wind, the butterflies, the microbes. That is life that is playing that. But these beings over here that run off of a hard drive, they're like, oh, the ancient melody is this. And we're going to play that no matter what. That's the ancient melody. So they have a very limited ability to perceive and to respond. It's actually a very, very weak system. I don't want you ever to be unduly impressed with them. Even if they've been, you know, the overlords of humanity for a very long time, they have a very limited repertoire. That's the best way of putting it. They can't come up with new songs. They only got what's in the karaoke songbook. The karaoke malevolent songbook of evil. They're like, okay, these are all the songs that we've played over millennia, and these are all the songs that are allowed to be played, and there will never be new songs written, and you're just gonna have to sing what's in the songbook. That's it. That's what it's like. If you go to karaoke, it's like, these are the options. You know, you got Frank Sinatra. Like, that's what you got. You got to sing those songs. You got to sing those words. But you're like, maybe I don't like that song. Maybe I want to do it differently. You don't get to change the key. You don't get to change the tempo. You don't get to change the words. It's the way it's been done from however long amount of time. So that level of reality, those beings that embody that level of consciousness, they don't want genetic expression. They don't want freedom, is what I'm trying to say. They don't want a bunch of jazzy musicians to hijack the PA system at karaoke and turn off the canned music and the recordings and start playing new spontaneous jazz. They don't want that. And that's what we are doing with Flying Rainbow Lasagna. We are literally writing new genetic music in the moment that is in response to what the stars and other alive beings are doing, and pretty much saying, screw you to the beings that are only able to work in very predictable, regimented ways. And they're incredibly threatened by our ability to innovate and to be creative and to do new things in each moment. So I know there's questions, and I'll get to questions, but I also want to get into how to Flying Rainbow Lasagna across time. Okay. Oh, wonderful. Okay. There. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, so wait, first let me respond. Gala is wonderful. She's a fellow artist and she's taken that basic animation and she's done like digital paintings on top of the animation in order to augment it and create even more coolness. So I really look forward to that. And that is also an embodiment of my whole value system, that I don't consider this to be proprietary only for me. It's an idea that I created, I planted the seed. However, the tree that grows from that seed and all of the fruits and everything that comes from it, like that's supposed to be for everybody. That's not just supposed to be for me. So the whole idea is I created the first flying rainbow lasagna genetic oscillation in this body. I'm not the only person that's ever supposed to do it. Everybody's supposed to be able, everybody who wants to is supposed to be able to do this. And you can ask this question too, Aurora, like what happens if a really evil person does the flying rainbow lasagna? Because I kind of think that flying rainbow lasagna is like that elixir in the movie Swamp Thing. Now, I don't believe in magic elixirs. I'm just using this as an example. But in Swamp Thing comic book, you know, they drink this magic elixir, and all it does is turn you into more of what you are. That's why Swamp Thing became Swamp Thing, because he really loved plants so much, he became a plant. So the whole point is, if you're a horrible monster inside and you drink this elixir, like it just will make you like more of a horrible monster. What I'm trying to say is, if a horrible monster does the flying rainbow lasagna, it's not like all of a sudden they will become amplified and even more horrible. What happens is they start to recognize their horribility. They start to recognize that they're an aberration. They start to recognize that they are not playing good music in the time field. And they also have what I would consider to be the ultimate existential crisis, where they say, wait a minute, if I'm not supposed to exist and I'm doing all this music that's not music that's supposed to be here, what am I actually doing here? And they go to entropy. That's what happens when horrible monsters drink the elixir known as flying rainbow lasagna. They flying rainbow lasagna to the point that they recognize they're supposed to go into a state of total entropy, and that's how they go to unity consciousness. Remember, there's two nodes, there's two sides to the lasagna, this side, this side, this side, this side, and one side is energy and one side is entropy. And when they do the flying rainbow lasagna, they're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be going to entropy. I'm supposed to be losing consciousness and losing energy and losing awareness, not hanging out on the membranes of death like a vampire sucking life force energy from you, me, and everyone else for millennia. So that is what happens when they do the flying rainbow lasagna. Thank you very much for appreciating my animation, everyone. And you just think I have high intentions that I'm going to take that animation and make my own soundtrack and make a wonderful actual dance video of it. So it's coming up. It just takes a little bit of time to do. So, okay. Pedro says, I asked because you said that your collective is where all the virtuosos are. So I assumed that the not yet virtuosos are in a different collective while they refine their abilities. This is a good question. And I also assumed that there could be other beings forming collectives to pursue different goals, of course, all in harmony with the galactic brain. Yeah, so the beings who are virtuosos who are pursuing different goals, they're still on the stellar network, but they just might be, you know, a different band, a different type of collection, but they're still making harmonious music. And let's also say that in the stellar network, that there are classrooms for ardent musicians, people who love their artistry and their instrument, but who are just not perfect yet. And that's a big, big difference from what we're experiencing here on this planet. This planet, this realm, we're supposed to be in a schoolroom for learning where you learn how to be a virtuoso. But that's like when you're trying to go to school and it's full of bullies, and like the bullies like taking your notebooks and smashing them into the mud and pushing you down and breaking your pencils. It's like you can't even learn because you got broken pencils. That's what this world is like. So this world is supposed to be one of those places where we each develop into our own sense of virtuosity. The material world, matter, comes from the root word mother. We are supposed to be here like wonderful babies, gestating in the womb until we are ready to exit this level of reality, level up to a new expanded level of perception and consciousness and ability that I call being a virtuoso. That's what's supposed to be going on. But what's happening is we're in this level of reality that's supposed to be this lovely, safe, protected womb, and we're totally being attacked. We're totally being, you know, whatever, diminished, constrained, limited, raped, whatever you want to call it. And it's very, very difficult for us to develop. So that is the challenge. We have to be very badass little musicians, to be like, oh, you're not going to stop me, and I'm going to do my music anyway, and I'm going to learn to be a virtuoso anyway. And then as I emerge as a genetic virtuoso, I'm going to kick interdimensional ass, and no one is going to do this to me anymore. And that is what is happening. So yeah, there are definitely, there's places that are intended as places for learning, like schoolrooms where you're supposed to be able to learn music theory. Like this, the world that we're in right now is totally unfair. I'm just trying to tell you all, it's not you. It's not you, it's them, it's the world. Totally unfair, totally not the way it was designed. Drinking water. And also totally in the midst of changing. So I'm not going to give you hopium and tell you, oh, in the future it's going to be so great. In the present, it is so great. It is so great now because this world is changing now. And basically that cosmic law needs to be enforced, that what you send out comes back to you instantaneously and amplified. That's how you make this room a schoolroom and not a house of horrors where people have been able to delay or defer their true reflections back to themselves of their actions for such a long amount of time. That's what's been happening, kicking the can down the road for such an extensive amount of time that it's almost as if cosmic laws have been suspended. They have not been suspended. The lunch lady is back from her smoke break, and there's no more bullying on the playground, is what I'm trying to say. Thank you very much, guys. Okay, so Pedro has a question about this. He says, is the jump up starting from the singularity and then back to the singularity, or from the singularity up and then down from the singularity? Now I know where all those annoying songs I can't get out of my head come from. The Pooties iPod, exactly. That is exactly right. They're doing anything they can to distract or make you feel afraid. Like once you start to do the flying rainbow lasagna, they might make you feel guilty or otherwise insecure. Like, you're not allowed to do that. What do you think you're doing? Or you're gonna do something wrong. Stop pulling that lever. Stop pushing that button. Whatever you stop, go back. But you know you have to do what you have to do. So the question about the where we're starting from in the singularity, I will answer with a picture. First, let me squint and scroll and find the picture because I know I've got it right here. I'm so proud I have this picture, and I could find it in 5 seconds. Now, hold on a minute. I'm sorry. Go to share screen. This one right here. Share screen. Awesome, guys. Okay, so I hope that this will answer your question effectively. And go to the annotation with a pen. Each one of these circles that I'm highlighting in blue represents a cross-section of my yellow sculpture. So here it is in this upper position over here. And there we go. And this, where I'm making a big giant blue dot, that's the singularity. And then this is the singularity down here also. So what we have is the singularity jumping up and down in 2 positions, but it is the same singularity. So in order to create that flying rainbow lasagna, what we do is first, I would say, the yellow sculpture is starting from this position. The central neutral position would be here, right? And first what we do is we jump that singularity from this dot that I'm making a giant blue dot up to here. And then we jump all the way from this location up here, all the way down to the bottom. And then we jump all the way down from the bottom, all the way up to the top. So the very first action that we take, I would say, is a half jump. And now, wait, I'll stop share so that I can then go to this other animation that will also show this to you, I think even better. Good. I'll show you this other animation. Thank you for bearing with me while I squint and do technological stuff. Share screen on this animation. Boom. Show you how it works. Go back to the beginning. So this part that I play right here in the beginning is like that initial singularity creating the first half cone. And it starts out kind of like from a resting or neutral position. So here it is creating that first half cone. That's the half jump. And then it jumps, if I annotate, oh, good, look, I'm annotating. So what we just did, if this is that blue dot that was in the middle, the neutral position, I just jumped up to here and made this the singularity up here. But then I'm going to jump from there all the way down to here to the singularity that's down there. So now I'll keep going on this animation. Oh, how do I make you go? Do your thing. Do it. There you go. And then all the way back up, and then all the way back down, and then all the way back up, and then all the way back down until we've made the 8 flanges. Great. So if I know it was a little bit slow, but let's do it like this. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll count it back again for you so we can do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Very good. This is lasagna dance class. Awesome. And, you know, I call this a dance and everything like that. You know, when I speak lightheartedly about this, these are like complex complex concepts that I'm trying to get across. I experience them all as very fun and lighthearted. So yes, this is lasagna dance class, and it's supposed to, I'm like a fun dance teacher, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is how you feel it. And it's not the type of thing where it's like, oh, you did the wrong thing, then you're gonna get, you know, hit on the head by a bamboo cane. No, it's not like that at all. It is all supposed to be done in a fun and joyous sense. This is freedom. Freedom is fun. Go to more questions here. Pedro says, it reminds me of a story I read. Scientists catch a demon and they quote unquote cure him and he turns into an angel. That is very interesting. I guess that was on the question of what happens if you flying rainbow lasagna something that is profoundly evil, because that is the answer. Like, how I don't have to keep this a secret from evil people. It's not like, oh no, if this falls into the hands of the wrong people, then we're all gone. That's not what happens. I'm actually like, oh, you're evil, here, have some lasagna. Because what's going to happen is you're going to recognize that you need to go to a state of total entropy and no longer be utilizing energy as your food source. Okay, Dominic says, so if we can do something impossible using FRL, does it make it more probable for others to do it in reality? My real answer for that is, it's like every time you flip a coin, it is an independent probabilistic event. So each person, each individual gets to flying rainbow lasagna or not, or to whatever extensive degree they want to lasagna, as like their own coin flip. So it's not like, oh, if we get together 100 people doing flying rainbow lasagna, then there's a greater likelihood of 101. It's really not like that at all, because I want everyone to understand that your individual journey is your individual journey, and your success or failure is not based at all on anybody else or anything external to you. It is entirely based upon your willpower, your internal connection to divinity, your unique presence. So you can flying rainbow lasagna with an equal amount of probability if you are the only flying rainbow lasagna, or if there are 100 or 10,000 or 10 million. However, our system becomes a lot stronger the more of us there are. And I also liken this, if this is a band or a symphony. If flying rainbow lasagna means you're the songwriter, like you're writing a new symphony, you're writing a new song, a new melody. It's a very weak system if we only have one songwriter. Because what if the songwriter gets a little cold and wants to, you know, spend the day in bed watching Netflix and drinking soup? Then you don't get any new songs that day. And then everyone's like, we want to do new songs, but we can't because our one lone songwriter is taking the day off. It's a much stronger system if the innovators are, if there are multiple innovators, that anybody can pick that up and do that. And let me just, I got dog hair, something in my nose. Where I used to go to my bank in upstate California, Northern California, I liked that bank because they had this philosophy where they had rotating positions. So there wasn't just like one manager who's always the manager and always does like, you know, the paperwork and stuff like that of starting your new bank account. And there's the tellers that work over there and then the guy that takes care of the drive-through. What they would do is they would rotate throughout the different months of the year so that everybody does everybody's position. And that is a much, much stronger system, because that means, like, let's say you walk into the bank and you want to open a loan. Anybody can be the loan officer on that day because they've all been trained for that position. So that is what I'm talking about in terms of being able to perform the flying rainbow lasagna and be a songwriter and create a new melody. That each one of us should be able to do that. The more of us that do that, the greater complexity that we create, the much stronger and more threatening our system of unpredictability is in terms of the artificial intelligence. That's the value of having more and more flying rainbow lasagnas. Once you get to whatever, 100 new nodes of possibility, 10,000 new nodes of possibility, and each node is, you know, like a dandelion fluff, you know, like you have the center with all of these things radiating out from it. each node creates more and more and more complexity. So it doesn't matter in terms of your personal development, you can be successful regardless of how many other people are being successful. That's it. You can run the marathon regardless of whether anybody else is running. And this is really important because I do not believe that anybody has to quote unquote red pill the masses. No, you don't. You really don't. You don't have to spend your energy and flap your moving mouth parts and shake other people by the shoulders and convince them and make them. No, you don't have to. What you can do is simply focus your energy on your own best music, on your own self-expression, on your own genetic virtuosity, and surround yourselves with others who are also doing the same thing, because that it amplifies your music and makes your journey easier. And people, that's like, why do I have the approach that I do in this class? Why am I not out there proselytizing, advertising, putting things on billboards and saying to everyone, like, your salvation lies in being a flying rainbow lasagna. You have to do this now. Like, I don't do that. I'm like, it's optional, not mandatory. Do it if you want to. Don't do it if you don't want to, because I know that my individual success rests entirely in my own hands, not in how many other co-participants there are. Although I encourage everyone to do this, I encourage everyone to find their own freedom, I encourage everyone to work together. But it's like I'm giving you an answer that is like a very fine line that each one of us has to walk, because none of your success is dependent upon anybody else's success. You run the marathon of life. You do your own thoughts, your own belief structure, your own creativity with your own body. It's not dependent upon anybody else. But the more of us that do this, the more of us that say screw you to the control system in the matrix, the much weaker the matrix becomes, and to the point that now it is completely superseded. So, and I'm going to get into the superseding of the matrix imminently. Okay, wait. Go to more questions, but then I want to go into supersede the matrix. Salu says, does one go through the 0th dimension, the singularity, when transformed into the FRL? It is not going through the singularity, because that would be like saying, like, hey, there's a tunnel there. I'm going to go through that tunnel. It is not like that. You are the embodiment of the singularity. And that's not a difference. You already are that. You have the singularity in all of these different energetic structures, in your cellular structure and in your atomic structure. It's in you. It's like Dorothy's magical ruby slippers. It's in you. You have it, darling. It's right there. And what you're doing when you do the flying rainbow lasagna is moving your singularity, or the doorways that are your own personal doorways to the singularity, in a new movement. You're moving things in a new way that you never moved before. But those things are you. It's not anything outside of you. It's not like you have to go into a different space. When I say add another dimension, it does not mean hop into a metal spaceship and fly to another dimension, or get into an apparatus, or drink an elixir, or any of those types of things. It's taking you and dancing in a new way. And actually, let me just also be really clear. If a neighbor looked over my fence and saw what I was doing, there are some times when I'm doing the flying rainbow lasagna, I'm moving my hands. And as I'm moving my hands, you can see, well, this one is doing the side to side. This one is doing the up down. And sometimes you will see me go like this, where I'm spinning. And then you will also see me bring my hands together like this. And my fingers look very, very similar to DNA when it's in the process of mitosis, when it is curled up into its chromosome X-like shape, and it is organized along the midpoint or the center of the cell line. And I bring it together like this, and then begin to bring it apart like this. That is, those two movements that I do are erasing. Because when you are either practicing on the piano or doing a rough sketch before painting, you are allowed to make some mistakes. This is an exploration. We are doing what we're doing spontaneously in response to our environment. And also, you might make mistakes. It does no good to be like, oh my God, I have the pressure to be perfect. Like, what if I do the wrong thing? I'm going to screw up time. What you get to do is erase. I've said before, this is a pencil with an eraser. So my erasing movement is to go like this. It's like I'm organizing things, kind of like when you are preparing to shuffle the deck of cards. I'm organizing things, all the tendrils that are not supposed to be there, the time tendrils that are not supposed to be there. I begin to bring them together and I erase them. I erase them with my mind and with my willpower and with my genetic dance. And as I bring them together like this, I'm doing this on a genetic level, organizing my cells that are in mitosis. And then as I expand my hands again, that's also like a page break, paragraph break, or measure break in music. So we have you know, locked in that segment of what we did. We did this melody, we did this melody, we did this melody. I erased everything I don't want. And now it's been locked in or secured, and nothing's going to come along and screw it up. We're making events in reality. So what if you're like, I want ice cream, I want ice cream, I want ice cream. I'm going to erase all the things that might screw it up, that might take away the ice cream. And now I've locked that in. And now that event is written into reality. And I do this every day, and I do it multiple times, and I do it with my hands, and I do it with my feet. So a big part of the creative process is, when in artwork, in art school, you learn this. You make marks, you draw with your pencil, and then you erase with your eraser. The act of erasing is an equal part of the creative act as the act of drawing. So with our mind, because there's all these things where it's like, oh no, if I'm now empowered to think reality into creation with my mind, what if I think the wrong thought? Oh no, I just thought about something I don't want, and someone's gonna crash their car and die. You have the right to make mistakes. That is part, like, oh my God, like, that wasn't the right note, that wasn't the right note, that wasn't the right note. That's the right note. That's the one that I wanted. So now I have to erase those 3 notes that are not supposed to be there. Erase it on out. Erase it out. It's not supposed to be there. You're allowed to explore. It's not like the cosmos is this very cruel mistress where it's just like, you dared to try to transform reality and you hit the wrong note and now I will destroy you. It's not like that at all. It is an incredibly loving, benevolent, accommodating teacher that is like, okay, I know that you're just starting out and that you need to practice a little bit, and we're not ready for the big performance on a stage. So work it out. Work your stuff out, and then when you become totally perfected, then you're ready to work in indelible ink, let's say. So there are different motions that I do, and I'll be doing motions that are like this, sometimes over the edges, like you see me going this way, that's like the diagonal ones, and it's a constant new set of combinations. And when I'm doing this, I'm not just me, my own little self doing this dance, I'm connecting with many other organisms. So now let me get into how to supersede the matrix. And I know there's many, many more questions. Wait. Okay. I'll read through the questions, how to supersede the matrix. Okay. Sarah Jane, and it's lovely to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. SJ says, flying rainbow lasagna is a verb. Flying rainbow lasagna is a verb. Say it from the rooftops, everyone. It's a verb. I'm drinking. Yes, you flying rainbow lasagna, the verb, with your DNA. That's like saying, I play music with my piano, the thing. Okay, we're totally getting it. Oh, Gala says, would you like me to share screen? My darling, yes, please do it. Do it. So I don't know if I have to give you some kind of special computerized permission. Let me see, to share screen over here. I don't know what anymore. Give you... ask to start video, make host, allow record, name, put on hold, remove. See what you need to do, Gala. If I need to give you any kind, oh, she's doing it. Fantastic. Let's see what you got, girl. This is so exciting. Oh, I love it. Fantastic. Awesome. Love it. Love it. Gal, that was fantastic. Thank you for showing it to us. Thank you for doing it. And I love that you included in there the number 8, turned it into an infinity symbol, and then showed the 2 nodes that were jumping between. That was absolutely, absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Like totally awesome. Like, this is what it's all about. It's a collaboration of many different creative minds coming together. And this is how we work for freedom. This is how we get free. I joke all the time, and I know that this probably flags my videos in some way, but this is my weapon, is the best word. It's my weapon for transformation. This is what I'm here for. So I'm not some horrible, violent, toothy alien extraterrestrial that's here to like zap you with a ray gun or anything like that. And this is also a very transformative tool that is intimidating to those beings who don't want us to transform reality. They're like, oh no, the flying rainbow lasagna is here. I'm like, oh yes, the flying rainbow lasagna is here. It is non-violent, which is why I hesitate to define it as a weapon or a gun or a bomb. It's not like that. It's not going to kill anybody. It is going to totally transform reality. More questions. Okay. Yeah, Pedro has a good point. He says, Dominic, I would say that it makes it more probable for others to try to imitate you doing the impossible thing. Once you see someone do something impossible, you then get inspired and feel permission to similarly do something impossible. So it's like if doctors say to you, you've been diagnosed with blah, 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 you'll be dead in 8 months. And then you find, well, this guy over here was diagnosed with blah, 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 and he lived 10 more years and outlived all of his doctors. Then you're like, well, wait a minute, if that guy can do it, I can do it too. So there's definitely, it's like running a marathon. If you're like, okay, that guy over there ran a marathon and he didn't drop dead, I can do it too. And then you also say, how did he do it? What did he eat? What kind of shoes did he wear? How did he run? What did he do? And you try to model your own experience, but you always have to do it in your own way. Dominic says, I see what Aurora is saying, just showing people the power of being individual. And that's what is being encouraged, not the actual act being imitated. It's a big thing. You can inspire other people and be inspired by other people, but in terms of your flight through time, it's all on you. It is completely on you. Just like, I'm a visual artist. My painting is my responsibility. It's not like, oh, I wanted to paint that part red, but I couldn't. I blame someone else. I wasn't allowed to use red. It's like, no. I'm allowed to use red. I buy the red paint. I put it where I want to put it. It's my painting, and I take responsibility for it. And if someone looks at a painting and they're like, hey, there's too much red here, it's because I painted things red. So in our lives, everybody has to take responsibility for what they're doing, making your body, making the events of your life, making the discussions, the conversations, the interactions. You're making all of that happen. And so you can't say, oh, I blame someone else. I didn't have red paint. It's not allowed. And we also recognize, like if we go to the art supply store and there's no red paint because the alien overlords made there be no red paint there, then it makes it difficult to do the paintings we need to do. So I want everyone to feel empowered. Like you get to be completely responsible for your own life and also completely empowered in your own life. Like you have every paint color available to you and you get to make all of the artistic choices about what you're painting, because a big part of this is not allaying blame. Like if we don't have to supplicate ourselves to an external deity, oh please, may I please paint with red paint? If we actually are making the red paint, then we take responsibility for it. But also it shouldn't be like, I wanted to paint with red paint, but no, I wasn't allowed to. No one else, they didn't let me have it. They didn't let me have it or let me do it, or they took away my paintbrush. Total empowerment and total responsibility, and the two aspects of self, empowerment and responsibility, they go together. So I don't want anyone to be like, well, I wanted to fly in rainbow lasagna, but I couldn't because no one else was around. Like some people would do that. They would be like, oh, it ain't my fault. It ain't my fault. Like, no, the truth is you gotta do your thing. You gotta do your music, regardless of whether there are other musicians to play with, or what if the other musicians around you sound like crap. You still have to play good music. You can't be like, it ain't my fault. I was trying to play my music, but that guy sounded bad, so then I had to sound bad too. You can't do that. Everybody has to be prepared to run the marathon alone and completely do this work without anybody else. But also, it's so much more fun when we do it together, when we mutually inspire one another, and yet examples of other people's success make you recognize that your own personal success can happen too. All right. So Lou is getting understanding. She says, yes, the singularity within oneself. You're totally getting it. Dominic says, I like the 8 going into the center. Oh, Pedro says, can we see it again, please? Just tell me which. I showed 2 videos. Which one do you want to see again, or do you want to see them both again? Because I could show them both to you. Yes, and Gala, I would say, yes, please do put your beautiful animation on Facebook available for download. I would love to have access to it and for others to have access to it too. And now what I want to go a little bit into the advanced application of flying rainbow lasagna. So when we're doing this, what we are doing is taking that singularity, that convergence point, the center of the yellow sculpture, and vibrating it so that the inside and the outside come together. And what we're transcending membranes. We're transcending things that delineate or make a distinction between one thing and another thing. We're bringing together formerly divergent realms. So one of the things that can be transcended is the idea of the past and the future. So when I've said flying rainbow lasagna, so this is bringing together different things. When you flying rainbow lasagna, you've got the singularity that's in you, and then you can connect the singularity to whatever else you would like to connect with. Another person, or an abstract idea, or a group like a corporation or a, whatever, a government body or something like that, or a planet or a star. You can connect with all those things. And I've been talking about that in the context of connecting only with other things and people and concepts that exist in this time and place. Like, oh, I want to connect the singularity in me with the sun in the sky, and the sun is in the sky right now. So it's no problem. It's, it's 4 p.m. and we're both in the same time and place, and we're both connecting with one another. But you can also use the flying rainbow lasagna to connect with beings that lived in the far distant past and beings that will live in the future. And the way that I can explain and describe this is, well, first I have to talk about retroviruses. And retroviruses, so first I should talk about tardigrades. They are these little tiny microscopic organisms called woolly bears. They're so tiny. They're like, very, far too small to see with your naked eye. They must be seen with a microscope. Tardigrades, woolly bears, they have a very unusual aspect of durability, that they're one of the few living species that can actually survive going through interstellar space. They have the capacity, if you totally desiccate them, dry them out, take out all of their water, they don't die, they just get dried up. And what happens, I'm going to draw it out for you. Okay, go to the whiteboard. Go to the whiteboard. Work. Hooray! Clear it out. Clear all drawn. Okay, so what happens with tardigrades? Let's say this is their little tardigrade DNA, very, very roughly drawn here, right? And it gets all dried out. And then what happens is it gets broken up into a million pieces. These are like puzzle pieces. So now I'm drawing, oh, look, it's broken up into pieces. Now it's just little fragments, like if we took a piece of yarn and cut it into a million pieces with scissors. And then what happens when you rehydrate them, when you put them back together, is the puzzle pieces come back together. But what the tardigrades do that is special is, let's say this is another organism that has complementary DNA. And what the tardigrades might do when they are rehydrating and coming back together is take a snippet from this organism over here and insert it into their own DNA, so that then, let's draw blue over this red over here, then look, they've got some of that music going through their own biological organism. And this allows for something called lateral gene transfer. Let's write it out. Lateral or horizontal. And what that means is, ordinarily, we are familiar with the idea of, here we go, draw. We're familiar with the idea of passing things down from mommy and daddy's generation to baby's generation. So that would be like, okay, if the tardigrades had to do it that way, they would take a snippet from, over here in the blue section, it would go into their reproductive cells, and then they would have a baby, and the baby would be born many months later with the little blue section in it. That's not what the tardigrades do. They're like, hey, I'm bored with my own regular DNA structure. I want some of this blue music to go inside of my red music. So when I get reassembled after being desiccated, I'm going to insert this little genetic snippet without the necessity of having to go through doing it in the next generation. That is what lateral or horizontal gene transfer means. And this has everything to do with you and me and our transformation into, let's say, the full potential of what a human being can actually be. That you can do flying rainbow lasagna in order to get the DNA that you need from the DNA buffet. So let's say, because I've said DNA is not just something that determines, biological structure, but I'm going to use one example of biological structure just in order to tell you this. So for humans and other mammals to be able to give live birth, we had to eventually, way back in antiquity, we had to find a source for the snippet of DNA that was how to successfully have the fertilized, embryo attached to the womb. That for a very long time in the biological realm, that DNA snippet, that little melody, how you attach to a womb, wasn't in the biological song. So that made it not possible for live birth to happen. So what had to happen was a retrovirus. Viruses go inside of your nuclei and they snip your DNA, they enzymatically change it, they turn it around. Sometimes they're bad and they make you get sick. Sometimes they're helpful. And they snip your DNA and they insert a new little cord that says how to attach a placenta and an embryo to your womb so you can have live birth. And so the amazing thing is that science has been able to trace back in the genetic record of various different species exactly when that snippet of music was inserted into the genetic song. And it's different for different species. So for example, the humans developed that from a particular snippet splicing, but rabbits developed it from a different snippet splicing, and other mammals developed it from a different source. So everybody needed that music, but not everybody got it from the same source. And the way that it was implanted was via a DNA retrovirus. The virus came into the nucleus of the cells and snipped the DNA and gave this new little. So I bring that up because of the trying to get past the idea of, oh, if you want something new to happen in your body, what you have to do is change your reproductive cells and then have a new baby, have a new generation, and then that new trait shows up in the new generation. No, that is not the only way to do this. Tardigrades and the existence of these retroviruses teach us all about how you can transform your DNA in the present generation, lateral or horizontal gene transfer. So now let's talk about flying rainbow lasagna with other people. Draw a picture. Go to the whiteboard. Technology, work. So clear out all this stuff. Clear out all my drawing. Let's say this is you. Sorry you have such a misshapen head in this drawing. Sometimes the pen is a little hard to work with. All right, that's you. You're the blue guy over here. And you have everything that you need in your DNA, except you don't have a melody that this person in red has in their DNA. And you want to get that melody. So what you can do is flying rainbow lasagna. So here's my very loosely drawn flying rainbow lasagna. I'll draw the singularity in purple. Here's the singularity inside of you. And here's the singularity inside of this other person. And here is you making that jumping motion from the singularity in you to the singularity in that other person that has as an end result this oscillation of the DNA flying rainbow lasagna shape. So you've got essentially a flying rainbow lasagna connecting blue person to red person. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a little snippet. Let's do it down here in his leg. We're gonna take out a little snippet of blue and we are going to put some red inspiration into there. And this is exactly like, music like the Beastie Boys or any of these hip hop pastiche type of songs where you might be playing a particular music like this, and then you put in a sample, and the sample could be a few bars of Jimi Hendrix or a few bars of Mozart. It doesn't matter. You're playing your music that was made in the 21st century, but you can put in a little bit of inspiration that comes from any other time, and there's a great deal of artistry that can be expressed in that way. So this is one of the first things to understand. You can flying rainbow lasagna with other people that live in the same time as you. This guy lives at 4 p.m. and this guy lives at 4 p.m. and I'm flying rainbow lasagnaing with him and I'm getting a crucial melody from that person. But this guy over here, the red guy, he can live millions of years ago because through flying rainbow lasagna, this is the advanced presentation now, you can transcend the limits of space and time. And you can get genetic inspiration from someone who lived millions of years ago. Now let's draw someone who will live in the future. This green guy over here is going to live in millions of years. He doesn't even exist yet. And let's say he has some crucial amount of green energy over here that you need for your health and vitality right now. Well, what you can do is, here we're going to take a snippet out of your leg and we're going to flying rainbow lasagna that guy's green energy all the way into your leg over here, and now you have an inspiration from him. And it could be a set of ideas, or it could be activities, or it could be behaviors, or it could be a belief system. It is some crucial chord, just like the chord of how to attach your fetus to your womb. It could be anything like that that can come from the future. And in this way, you literally have available to you. So in the first level 1 presentation, what I said was, hey, this is like the book of you. Here's a book. I'm drawing a book around this guy. Here's a book, and here's pages in the book. And we're rearranging all of the words in the pages of your particular book. But let's say your book doesn't have something I used as the example, an asterisk. I don't have an asterisk in my book, and I need one to write something important. But let's say this guy over here in millions of years, he's got an asterisk. I'm drawing one there. He's got it. He's got what you need. You can get that inspiration and information from that guy by doing the flying rainbow lasagna with him, even though he doesn't live in the same time and place, 4 p.m. in California of the United States. So this is the beginning of being truly free. And I say that this is like being at a genetic banquet. You know, at a banquet, like a buffet, there's all these different little, here's like little plates, drawing little plates of stuff. And what you can do, there's these different, you've got your here's your serving plate over here. You can take a little bit of stuff from this plate, like I want some mashed potatoes from this guy, I'm gonna put the mashed potatoes here, then I want some carrots from this guy, but then I want some meat from this guy, but then I want gravy from over here, and then I want dessert from over here. And you take all of those different little things from the genetic buffet and you put them all together on your plate in order to make the wonderful, delicious meal that you wish to experience. So that's the scoops from the genetic buffet. And this is just working with biological organisms. Now I want to talk about what do we do on the atomic or molecular level, because as I've said before, each one of your atoms is also, you know, shaped like a torus. You've got the basic donut shape over there. Those are all of your atoms. And you have many, many, many atoms. Look, I'm drawing tons and tons and tons of little purple circles here representing your atoms. Well, your atoms can also get crucial stuff that they need from the far distant past or the far distant future. So in atoms, there is this thing called covalent bonding, and that is how atoms stick together to form molecules. So what I just drew are 2 nuclei, and now let's draw here. Here's an electron shell, and here's another electron shell. So the way that atoms bond together, this is called covalent bonding. Here, let's write it out. This is science stuff, but you know I'm not a scientist. Covalent bonding over time. This is what we're doing here. If you want to do regular old covalent bonding, you can only bond with the other atoms that are available in your time and place. So the way that covalent bonding happens is this is like a little electron over here, and this is a little electron over here. And if oh, that didn't work very well. If this guy over here has an electron to share, and this guy over here has like an empty space where that electron needs to go, what happens is you share an electron. This little electron ends up circulating through this guy's orbit, and then these 2 atoms become bonded into what is known as a molecule, right? Each one of these electron shells has a certain number of electrons that go into it that make it comfortable. So if you don't have it filled, you have empty puzzle pieces, you have like a missing tooth. It's like, oh, you got this missing tooth. You got to fill it with something. You fill it with electron that comes from another atom over here. And that's only, you know, in science, only available with atoms that live in the same time and place as you. Like if you live in California and it's 4 p.m., then both of these atoms can share electrons together. But through flying rainbow lasagna, what happens is you can share electrons with atoms that might have existed 10,000 years ago, or atoms that will exist in 10,000 years. So now all of a sudden here, let's draw a flying rainbow lasagna. Here's a flying rainbow lasagna, connecting one of these atoms in your body to one of these atoms over here. And that atom could be from, you know, 10,000 years ago or 10 million years in the future. So we become, we get greater access to materials, and we also have the capacity to redefine what matter is. Because this whole idea of covalent bonding, this is one of science's basic understandings of how matter is formed. Atoms stick together through this sharing of electrons, forming molecules, and the molecules interact on, you know, basically a chemical level. And that's how we create matter and have interactions in this world. But if I can connect an oxygen molecule in my body now over here to, you know, an oxygen molecule and a hydrogen molecule that are over here in a completely different time and place, then all of a sudden I've created a water molecule that is half in my time and place now and half in a far distant time and place. And we are redefining what matter is. So this is just like saying, it's like saying, I'm giving you the initial flying rainbow lasagna, the basics of it, the possibilities, what you can do with it, you can transform with it. And then in this advanced understanding of flying rainbow lasagna, you're like, wait a minute, I'm not just limited to genetic dance partners that are in this time and place. I can dance with anybody in the past. I can dance with people who haven't even been in existence yet. And then you can say, well, I can dance individual atoms or molecules of my body with individual atoms or available electrons in another time and place, essentially making your body a new form of matter. This is the advanced level of what you can do. And I do this all the time, all right? This is literally, we are redefining what it is to be in the material world, and that's freedom. That's what we're doing. I need to drink more water. That is freedom. That's the thing that those horrible, evil occupiers of the interstices and the Putis and the malevolent controllers of humanity want to prevent. They're like, oh, we don't want you guys to reach your true potential. We don't want you guys to redefine what matter is and to form into a new state of matter. We don't want that. We want you guys to stay limited and be objective materialists and think that this is all impossible and continue to experience disease and decrepitude and die. Go back to all of these wonderful questions. Okay, wait. Pedro says, I'm making a list of beings to connect via FRL. Wonderful. Okay, Saul, Jesus. Okay, we'll get into Jesus. Let's say this. In defining who the person Jesus is, you have to be really cautious because it's come to my attention that there is a mythological or fictional version of who and what Jesus is that is available for interaction on the astral realm, but is not the true loving being and the true loving teacher that would be the real example of Christ. So I've been calling the fake Jesus either fake astral Jesus or Roman Jesus, that it is the fictional story or definition of who and what Jesus is according to the Roman Church. So Christ consciousness, this is a very real thing that you can connect with via flying rainbow lasagna. I would caution against interacting with the narrative structure that has been given to us by the church, like some guy dying on a cross that is suffering for your sins, and that to connect with that being, because it is really my understanding that that story, not whether it is something that really happened, it is a story that is being used as a control structure. And when people first open up their inner eye, they often have the experience of being that person who is being crucified, and they say, I am Jesus and I am here suffering for my, everybody's going to be set free through my suffering. And I think that there are many, many flaws on there. So I would say, if you want to fly rainbow lasagna with something, do it with Christ consciousness, do it with the pure, divine, Christ-like intelligence, not the embodiment of man with a beard that is said to have had these experiences from the church. But let me go on now to what Pedro is saying. So connecting with the Son, yes. Jesus, I would say Christ consciousness would be probably a more impeccable person to connect with. And he says, I would like to connect with someone from Atlantis before the fall, but not just any Atlantean. Any suggestions, a high priest, philosopher, or scholar, or someone else I should look up? So Atlantis before the fall, everyone was a high priest and a scholar. So I appreciate the direction that your question is coming from, but it's kind of like, why is an onion? Like, it shows the foundation or the footing upon which you stand is not exactly correct in understanding that society. Everyone in Atlantis before the fall ascended. Death was the aberration. So there was not some kind of a hierarchy where some people are more special than others. Like, that guy's an expert ascender, but that guy's just a regular peasant. We now live in this world where we live in a hierarchy where there's the king is the most special person and there's lowly peasants down below them. And of course, that expectation is projected upon spiritual growth, where we say, oh, there's one special chosen person, Jesus, being crucified on the cross, and then there's all of his disciples and followers and the lowly peasants down below who just adulate him. So that also is reflected like in our rock stars and adulation of musicians. One special person is on a stage, playing the guitar, sounding great. Everyone else is down below them, looking up at them in an adoring way and listening to their music. That's not what things were like in antediluvian Atlantis. Everybody who was there was a completely special and unique genius, and worthy of being with and worthy of connecting with, and transformed into their ascended state or pure light state, bypassing the necessity of going through many, many multiple deaths. So I would say if you wanted to connect with beings who are from that era, it's definitely, definitely possible. You don't necessarily have to connect with only one special person. There are a lot of them. And it's also my understanding that what happened, okay, so before the genetic invasion happened on this planet, there was a section of the people that lived in Atlantis whose seeing was so clear that they could see the future and they knew what was going to happen and they knew they were going to get invaded. So they sequestered themselves. They got into a place that is protected by a psychic barrier. That's the world that they've been living in for whatever, 10 or 20,000 years. And they're able to keep alive the vestigial traces of their culture. But just like I used this example, the Native Americans can no longer live the way they once did on this continent because the bison have been destroyed and because the free movement of humans has been limited. And if you were a nomadic bison hunter as part of your culture, you can't express that anymore. But what the Native Americans have kept alive is their songs, their oral traditions, their teachings and myths, handcrafts like beading and carving and things like that that are portable and that don't necessarily require roaming around hundreds of miles every day. Like you can carve a turtle onto something that's not the same as having free movement. The Atlantean people did something very similar. They kept alive the vestigial traces of their world in that little sequestered environment, like, you know, a Native American reservation, but they're not able to roam freely and do all the things that they once wanted to do. But also understand that once you graduate, like you graduate and you're not necessarily hanging around looking to, you know, jam with the other musicians that are still learning how to be virtuosos. So we drink more. I know, because I also just said that there are classrooms for becoming excellent, and then places where virtuosos play. And what I would say is it's all based on audition. Like, because everyone here is going to say, like, how do I know I'm good enough to play with the virtuosos? Like, I know everyone here has a sense of like being diminished or not good enough. And I don't want you to feel that way, because even if you are unschooled, as long as you are enthusiastic and pure, you can play with the best virtuosos, because what matters is being responsive in the moment. So it really doesn't matter how many songs you have memorized or how perfectly you know music history, or whether you even know what an F sharp is. And if you know the right name for every chord, that doesn't matter. What matters is, can you hear what the other musicians are playing? And can you then respond in the right moment in choosing the right thing? And the thing that you choose can even be a very simple thing. So a total beginner can play with virtuosos. A child can be a virtuoso. It doesn't necessarily mean that you, like I said, have memorized a lot of things or have mastered everything perfectly. It is your virtuoso, I'm defining as your capacity to collaborate effectively with others. So the stages of learning have to do with becoming a better and better collaborator, not necessarily with, as we often think in musical excellence, memorizing more and more patterns of what has come before. Because flying rainbow lasagna, the world that we are experiencing and creating as collaborative musicians of reality, it's something completely new that has never been done before. If we are entering into a reality or a world that is completely new and completely innovative, it doesn't matter if you're a PhD in the place where you come from. It doesn't matter if you're an established classical musician that has memorized every single composition ever written. That won't actually help you in this completely new realm where we are defining new rules for behavior, new rules for what is possible, new rules for how we navigate this world, and new rules for how we collaborate with other people. So if I took, like, whatever, if I took 5 people off of this planet and I dropped them on a completely new alien world that was ran by different rules than this world, it doesn't matter if one of the people that I took off of this world was a very wise, you know, science professor, you know, like a PhD. Oh, look who's here, guys. I'm so happy you woke up, Cheeky. You got done with your nap. And we're almost at the end of lesson two, so you better get here. Good girl. Mwah, mwah. Happy that Cheeky showed up. Everybody's super happy to see you, Cheeky. Oh. So Cheeky would be on an equal footing of a very fancy science professor, because if you go to a new planet that you've never been to before, and all the rules are new and no one's been there before and no one knows what the rules are, you're all on an equal footing. You all have to figure it out from the beginning. There's no expert. So in this world of flying rainbow lasagna that we are all co-creating and manifesting, no one's an expert. That's also, I'll tell you this, throw all the prophecies out the window too, because no prophecies that have been written prior to October 8th of 2001 are relevant anymore, because the flying rainbow lasagna transforms everything. It makes things that were formerly not possible now possible. It's the big red button of total improbability and total novelty. So yeah, throw the moldy old book of prophecy, the book of Revelations, all of that, throw it out the window. And there are many, many secret societies. And those beings that run only on a hard drive, they don't do innovation, they base everything that they do on moldy old prophecies. They're totally unprepared to deal with flying rainbow lasagna. They're like, we don't know what to do. Like, this is not in our data banks. This is not in our memory banks. We don't know what to do. So this is like, it's how you supersede them and how you transcend them. Okay. Oh, so that's interesting, because Ben is saying this. All right, so Ben says, so the FRL dance could be seen as a prophetic act. I love this. A physical bodily expression of our genetic freedom and creative transformation within an oscillating time field. Yes. The FRL movement reinforces the individual emotion and creative will or divine force, allowing us, no, you're doing good, allowing us, what's the last part? Okay, but yes, okay, so wait, I can give you the comment, got a little bit broken up. I'm not sure how you define a prophetic act, but I really liked your description here. A physical bodily expression of our genetic freedom. Yes. And creative transformation within an oscillating time field. Yes, that is absolutely accurate. That is absolutely right. It is the free expression of what you are doing with the instrument of your physical body and your consciousness contained within your physical body, and what we would consider to be, you know, your soul or your spirit or the life force energy and love that powers the entire apparatus or contraption known as you. Peggy says, for those time differences, do we need to know who or what we are looking for when FRLing? Wonderful question. Thank you so much for your insightful question. You need to know who and what you want to FRL with, but you don't necessarily need to know, like, I'm looking for Joe Smith at 12:45 p.m. and I know he lives on, 123 Mockingbird Lane. It's not like that. It is more like finding an energetic signature. So if you guys wanted to find me in the higher dimensional space, you wouldn't necessarily be like the way you call me on the phone, I want to put in Aurora's name and then a serial number that she's associated with. It's not like that. You find an energetic signature. So in finding what you want to flying rainbow lasagna with, you need to connect with an energetic signature. And this has everything to do with becoming adept with your higher dimensional, your higher faculties. So on your phone, your caller ID says, your phone number comes up and your name comes up, and the person says, I know Aurora is calling me because her name is on this. In the psychic realm, it's me because of the feeling of me, my energetic signature, which would be akin to like your smell. Like you know your smell. Mamas and babies. Mamas recognize their babies by their smell. Dogs recognize their owners by their smell. Your energy signature is akin to your unique smell or your unique, I'm just using smell because it's like not something that we have, we have ID cards and we have, social security numbers. We don't necessarily have a signature smell, but that is how you can tell if someone is authentic and who they are in the higher dimensional world. And how do you tune in on a smell? It actually does help a lot to meet the person first or have some interaction with them first that you've got like a goal, like I'm going to connect me here to that goal there. But you can also have an intention, like I want to connect with the thing that is the missing puzzle piece that I need, and then you will find the other musicians. So my experience of doing this, how I do this, you know, I sit and I do my flying rainbow lasagna, I'm doing my dance, and there are all of these other organisms around me. And some of them, they're like, oh, I want to start dancing too. And they start doing their dance. And then some of them start dancing too. So it's more like I feel I start with my own music, I start generating my own music. And then I find that the beings that come and interact with me, it's like they're we're drawn together in order to play the right music together. So that's, I think, the best answer I can give from my personal experience. I mean, I don't usually say, I want to connect with someone from 10,000 years ago whose name was blah, 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 and who will give me blah, blah answers. I don't usually do that. But what I will do sometimes is say, I need a resolution to blah, blah, blah. Where can I find it? And I'll be doing my dance. And then I will find myself connecting with the exact beings that have blah, blah, blah as the complement to what I need from them. And none of this is done verbally. All of this is done non-verbally through feeling and through higher perception, which is why it's just like if you ask me, like, how do I know the right note to play? I know the right note to play because I can hear it. Like I can hear, first we played this note, then we played this note, and I know the next note is going to be because I can hear it inside. So that's my best answer is like your higher faculties become your inner guidance and take you in the right direction to interact with the right beings. Okay, Ben is saying, regarding my comment, I'm struggling to define FRL, perhaps because it must be experienced. Doing my best to wrap my head around it, but it's supposed to be a dance. That much is clear. That's the thing. For many, many years, I was talking about flying rainbow lasagna with people, and people in my regular life, like who were my friends when I was back in Woodstock. And some of them, they just thought it was a sculpture. They didn't understand that it was something that was moving. Then when I would try to tell them, like, it's something that your DNA is doing, then there was also a challenge to be able to get that connection made there. So all of this, I'm telling you guys, like I'm flapping my moving mouth parts, I'm giving descriptions for something that is experienced. And I will just keep on encouraging you to keep on your journey, keep on awakening your higher faculties. You'll get there, you'll know it. You'll be in that abstract realm, you'll be doing these dance movements, and you'll be like, oh, this is what Aurora was talking about. So here's another way that I can say it. Don't be concerned if you can't hear the music. If you just want to get started, just start with the beat. Just start with the beat and get your DNA going along with the beat. And the more that you transform, the more you do this dance, the more you are able to perceive. You will find, because this is what happened, my inner vision became sharper. Like at first it was just like being a little infant, like colors and lines and forms and shapes and all sorts of crazy crap was going on. And then little by little, my vision sharpened and I could figure out and make out and individuate shapes and see what was going on. And also my hearing came online and I became able to hear better the notes that are being played. Ah, there's a fly in my drink. I'm so sorry. I'm so thirsty and I want to drink it, but there's a fly in there right now. So just bop along with the music. As you bop along on the basic beat, your hearing will improve. You will start to perceive more. This is as we get tuned up. We're getting tuned up. We're tuning the genetic guitar. We're all supposed to be able to have inner vision where we see and hear and know what the music is supposed to be. And that inner knowing, the true insight, when you're connected to true insight, no one has to tell you, C sharp, no one has to tell you, you know what note to play. And so all of this is an analogy, what note to play. What I'm saying is, you know what is true. You know what to think and do. You know what your activities are supposed to be. And that is so antithetical to this layer of reality that we've been experiencing as humans for so long, where not only do people not know, people are blinded from their inner directives, but also we're told what to do for money. Like you don't get to be like, I know that today I'm supposed to go to the beach and blah, 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 and do this and that. Be like, what are you, like stupid beach bum? You think you get to just go on the beach and do whatever you want to do? Get a job, you bum, right? You're supposed to do what your boss tells you to do. So it is such a new assertion to everyone here to be like, yeah, you're actually supposed to have your own higher faculties awakened and have your own inner directive that tells you what to do. Not have an external authority figure, not have a mommy, a daddy, a teacher, a president of the United States, a pope. No one else tells you what to do. You tell you what to do. So, because in this time and place, I've had to learn that people even look at the profession of being an artist or a musician as relatively self-indulgent. Like, yeah, like, you don't have to wake up and get to your job by a certain time. You don't have a boss telling you what to do. You can do whatever you want. Like, yes, you can do whatever you want. You are self-directed. That's the way it's supposed to be. So each one of us is supposed to be self-directed with our own innate divine connection. So as the higher faculties are awakened, you know inside what you're supposed to be thinking and feeling and doing, and who you're supposed to be connecting with, and what your projects and your manifestations are supposed to be. You know it. And I think it's this, we've been artificially disassociated with or distanced from what each one of us knows inside we're supposed to do. Here's a good example of that is body posture. That most of us know, like, oh, we're supposed to be sitting like this, or we're supposed to be moving our bodies like this. But we were told, don't wiggle in your chair, stare at the teacher, do this. Like, we have been told to do all these things uncomfortable with our body posture for so long that now everybody needs to take a yoga class to teach them, bend your arm like this, move your spine like this. And you have to have a teacher at the front of the classroom telling you what to do that is comfortable with your body. Like little kids, they don't need to be told what to do. They run, they play, they prance, and they fall down, and they take a few moments to collect themselves. Like, they know what to do with their body. So we all need to get used to being free again. So I only encourage everyone and give everyone permission. Like, I ain't telling you what to do. You're supposed to be free. You're supposed to know what to do. So I also use this analogy a lot. So Miles Davis is an excellent jazz musician. He was alive, when he was at the peak of some of his fame in the 1970s. He was already established as a musician. Herbie Hancock, who's now a very well-known musician, was only emerging and only getting going back then. He was a very new musician. And basically, Miles Davis, the established jazz musician, asked Herbie Hancock, the new young guy, to play with his band. And Herbie Hancock said to Miles Davis, "What should I play?" And Miles Davis said to him, "You should play your piano," which is basically like saying, like, I ain't gonna tell you what notes to play. Like, figure it on out. You're the piano player. You play your notes. So with each one of us, it's like, it's your body. You know what to do. You figure it out. No one else is supposed to tell you what to play. Definitely not as a jazz improv person. So yes, dancing like a flying rainbow lasagna. That's why I do this long, extensive class and let people be in the class for as long as they want to be, like come back year after year, is a process of awakening. It is a process of becoming an adept musician and virtuoso. It is a process of awakening your higher faculties to even be able to see the time field and hear the music and perceive and go along with it. So yes, do not be frustrated if you don't understand it right away. Do not be frustrated if your awakening doesn't happen instantaneously. And it's just like running a marathon. Someone asked me if I've ever run a marathon. Like, no, I can run like 1 mile. Like, it's very challenging for me to run because of the neurological things in this brain, but I keep on working on it. Cheeky likes to run a lot. So she's always making me like, we need to run faster. So maybe I'll become a runner one day. But it is just analogous to running a marathon, in that it is not something that is done overnight. No one is born with the muscles needed to run a marathon. You need to do tons of self-cultivation and get to that point. And it can be a challenge in the beginning. Like, at the beginning, you're like, oh my God, like this is really hard. My legs are really tired. I'm huffing and puffing. And like, it's not that much fun. But then like, it takes effort. But then as you do it more, it takes less effort. It gets to be more fun and easy. That's what I found with Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And in my own lasagna dancing, in my own practice, what I found was, at first it was something that I did like spontaneously, like when I felt great emotion, like the way that some people are like, I need to paint a painting right now. And like grab the paintbrush and fling paint around, like, I'm going to do it right now. And I became more cultivated and incorporated it into just part of my daily routine, so that now it's a normal part of my day. It doesn't necessarily require like, like huge, like inspiration and like, I'm going to do this now, like duress it doesn't have that feeling to me now. Now it is normal. Just like if you're a runner and you're used to running 10 miles a day, like, oh yeah, like in the beginning I huffed and puffed, but now I run 10 miles and that's normal. So everybody, you grow lasagna muscles, what I'm trying to say. Get going on it. Don't be concerned if it's difficult to begin with. You grow lasagna muscles as you do it, and the more that you do it, the more you perceive the world that I'm in. So when I do flying rainbow lasagna, also, like I'm in a world that I'm perceiving. So when my eyes are open, I see the world around me, the regular, my backyard or my studio here. When I close my eyes, I see a world that looks like a world of color, line, and shape and form. And now I also hear tones, and the movements that I make with my DNA and with my hands, with my entire body, are in response to the place that I find myself. So I'm not just dancing in a vacuum. That's what I'm trying to say. I joke, like if my neighbors were looking over the fence and they see me waving my arms around, maybe to them it just looks like I'm waving my arms around randomly. But to me, what it looks like is, oh, energy is coming towards me. I'm touching energy. I'm moving it over here. I'm touching this. I'm moving it over here. You're interacting directly with the time field when you do the flying rainbow lasagna. So, okay. Yeah, Joelle is saying, uh-oh, Aurora's getting into Jesus now. I know, I have to be very, try to be very impeccable with things that I say. Because also I know that people will come along and watch the videos, and I never want anything to be taken out of context. I want to be really clear is what I'm trying to say. Salu says, I think that is why understanding of FRL is inaccurate, is because I keep trying to relate it to my own meditations and also form what I've learned from yogic perspectives and teachings. Words are also limited when trying to communicate such experiences. Words are very difficult, even though I'm here in a video using words. That's why I like to use the animations, sculptures, diagrams, draw it out like that. If I could, I would beam all of that directly into your minds and bypass all of the flapping of the moving mouth parts. And yes, flying rainbow lasagna, this is a total, we're in a world of innovation, a world that is not limited by everything that has come in the past. And that's a very positive thing because we've had a lot of crap in the past. So what this means is, oh wait, it doesn't matter if blah, blah was going on and blah, blah was going on and blah, blah was going on, because now after flying rainbow lasagna, we can move forward in this new direction. So all of the old, not only prophecies, but old approaches. Like, I mean, yoga is very beautiful. That's something that people have been doing for thousands of years. And that was appropriate for that time. But now it might be necessary to redefine yoga, to redefine the postures, to redefine the order in which they are undertaken, or the feeling of them, or redefine other aspects of the practice. So I've been invited to do different things. Like one person that I knew was doing a Qigong class and another person a yoga class. And there are some poses in yoga that I cannot do that are not biologically good for me. So, you know, I don't do those. But like in the Qigong and other things like that, there are different movements to do. And I just have to do lasagna. I can't do or choose not to follow these older melodies that are from thousands of years ago. So the teacher was so gracious. He was like, thank you for coming to my class and jazzing it up with your own movements. And he kind of like, he saw out the corner of my eye that I was doing my own thing. I can't follow the predicted established movements. I have to do flying rainbow lasagna. And that is what I would encourage everyone to do. And it's another reason why I have not yet done an in-person teaching of other people, like exactly the movements that I do or whatever. I really want everyone to do their own movements and not, I mean, I want people to be inspired by what I do, but not try to copy it. Don't try to do, because you know something, your body is different than me. Your arms are a different length than my arms. Your legs and feet and hips, everything fits together differently than mine. Everybody has to dance their skeletal structure, their thought structure, and their DNA structure in a way that is completely unique to them. And I want everybody to be free to do that and not to ever say, well, Aurora does this with her hands, therefore I must do that with my hands too. Everybody's got to come up with their own way. Cheeky, I just want you to know, everyone is so happy and excited to see you that you got out of bed and came over to say hello. Awesome. Pedro says, Master Aurora, the wrecking ball, breaking my faulty mental constructs. Thank you. I happily accept that beautiful compliment. Thank you very much. And let's say, flying rainbow lasagna is definitely a systems buster. Like, this is my experience. not only of being here for 17 years in human society, because as soon as I came into this body and started to play my music with this apparatus, it meant that everything was going to change. It's also like I've had that experience in almost every place where I worked. I came into a system that was set up in a particular dynamic. And as soon as I came into it, it was like, oh, okay, everything is changing and shifting now. So that's been my experience of like, all right, we're in this time of total potential and total renewal, but that also means instability. It means, oh, like everybody always, we did it this way for 10 years at this company, but now it's like, we're going to do it in a new way. That's good, but requires practice and being open to something new. So yes, so that's what's going on this planet. And, you know, if we're looking at this planet like a company or like a job, like there's a lot of effed up things that have been going on at this company for a long time. It's time for some renewal. Like we need to clean house. We need to get rid of a lot of these tendrils that are not good to be here, and then definitely reweave the tendrils into better patterns. Yeah, Ben and Salu are both agreeing that words are very tricky. They are. It's part of the hacked operating system. It's the Tower of Babel. It's intentional. So don't take it personally. We all will supersede this. Joel says, yeah, all they think of is the end of the world over and over, and they have to make movies about it to get us to think about it too. Joel, I'm absolutely agreeing with you. I think it's a really excellent point. That end of the world trope or, you know, idea system, it is profoundly implanted in us. It's end of the world. It's the idea that human society will be destroyed, or a meteor will just wipe out all biological organisms on the planet, or even the inevitability of one's own death. And Terence McKenna has a really good audio recording about this. The connection between your personal eschaton in the Judeo-Christian world and the teachings of an inevitable eschaton, like an end of human society, an end of the world. And I think all of that is death cult stuff. And I think it's programmed in there as a harvest agenda, that everyone just thinks it's inevitable, gonna die, something is gonna end this whole story, and that's somehow necessary and part of it. And I keep on telling everyone, like, no, death is not inevitable. Eternal life is inevitable. And so, you know, rearranging that whole approach and that whole everything. Yeah, it's not by accident that all of that is put into not only movies, but, you know, books and mythology, and it's almost inescapable. So it's a very, very strong program to override, but it's very worth it. And yeah, I think that everyone is doing an excellent job of overriding it, actually. Nicole says, thanks for your perspective, Aurora. Also so thorough and consistent in the information. Very helpful. I will have to catch the rest later. Please do. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Peggy, also. Joelle says, that's so helpful, Aurora. Thank you. Good way to describe it, with the fuzzy vision that gets sharper. I've experienced that. Good. And yes, so then encouragement to everyone. If you feel like, oh, you know, it's difficult, it's a challenge, how do you even start? Encouragement that does get easier as your lasagna muscles grow. So Luce says, when you say continue to activate higher faculties, are you mainly referring to deep meditations? I'm referring to perception also in the daily waking consciousness, that when we activate our higher faculties, you'll start to see differently and perceive differently, even in your regular day-to-day experiences of going to the grocery store. Everything will change and shift, not merely what you see in your mind screen when you close your eyes and when you look inside with your imagination. Peggy says, do you think our children, while young, inherently know these ideas? Yeah. So all the young people that are here on the planet right now, they're super virtuosos. They're wonderful. They're not like, oh, like these kids don't know what they're doing and they have a mile to learn. You know, like they gotta grow up and then be our equal. They're all here on a mission. They're all here very intentionally. A lot of them have come to inspire and help us, the older generation. And as I was saying, young people can be total virtuosos. Brandon's in this class, and his family's got a couple of little children, and they watch the videos and they do flying rainbow lasagna themselves. And because this is a total innovation, there's no right way, wrong way. There's no pre-established way of doing it. I like to use the example also of Jimi Hendrix and the electric guitar. Like when the electric guitar was invented, it's like, they don't teach that in music school. They don't teach like the right way to do it, the wrong way to do it. Always make your feedback in this way. Like they don't teach it like that. So you innovate. Here's a new instrument like the electric guitar, and you can use it to make sounds, and the sounds can sound cool, and now you get to take it and run with it. And so yes, young people are uniquely well suited because they don't have this huge backlog of experience where they have an expectation of what reality is going to be. If I took a young person and dropped them off on a foreign planet and said, oh yeah, like I ain't gonna tell you the rules, figure it out yourself, they would be very well suited to it. They'd be doing the same thing that an established old wise professor would have to do. You'd have to learn like what are the rules of this place? How do things work? How do things fit together? And I think they would do an excellent job of being able to navigate the landscape. So yeah, none of this is based upon accumulated knowledge from the past. It is all based upon who you are as a person and your ability to innovate and respond in the present moment. Peggy says, oh, okay, there you go. Sarah Jane, you're agreeing with me. Grow lasagna muscles. Yes, these are literally my lasagna muscles. Sandy says, the same as with yoga and meditation, it is a practice. That is exactly right. With yoga and meditation, it can be hard if you don't have a place where you set it up. Like, that's my yoga corner. That's where I have my little cushions where I always do my thing. Like, it's easier when you have a place set up. So yeah, one of the things of my practice, I should tell you, like, I mean, I can do flying rainbow lasagna anywhere, and I've done it in very extreme situations, and I've done it just sitting on a concrete ground. You can definitely do that, but it's more, and I've also done it just like sitting on a little pillow, but I find it more comfortable. I have like a little reclining lawn chair outside, so you sit in my lawn chair, and when I sit in that chair, it's just like when you go into the gym, your body says, oh, I'm in the gym, it's time to exercise. I sit in that chair, my body says, oh, it's time to lasagna, like all the things that I do. So yeah, I mean, I have to do all the things that anybody has to do in order to keep my life together. Like, I have to, I gotta cook my breakfast, I gotta clean my dishes, body self-care, brushing my teeth, taking care of my dog, going for a walk, doing laundry. I have to do all of those things. And then I have to say, at this time of day, I'm going to set all of that aside and do a magical activity called flying rainbow lasagna. And the real thing that I'm trying to get across here is that this is a magical mental state. It is not a mundane mind state. So I might, when I'm washing my dishes, I'm in my regular mundane mental state, or going to the grocery store, any of the things that we do in order to sustain our lives here. Then I'm in my regular Aurora mental state. But when I sit down to do flying rainbow lasagna, it is like, oh, it is magic time, everyone. Like, attention, attention, tap, tap, tap. It is time to do some magical stuff here now. And how do you get into a magical mind state? You kind of like, you got to get a little bit of a running jump, get a little bit like, I use music to get my energy going. But it's also the idea of like, because I read things on the internet that are upsetting, or emails or whatever, and I read that and then I'm all like, okay, let's not think about all of that stuff. Press pause on all of that. The world is screwed up. We know the world is screwed up. Let's now sit in this special chair. Let's now perform a magical activity. Now let's unscrew up the world and transform and make things much, much more fun and comfortable and interesting. Ben says, this is such a great session. Thank you. And he says, thank you for your gracious offering today. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your enthusiasm. And also, I'll tell you guys, so, I've been talking about lasagna for a very long time, doing videos and stuff. And people would often be like, Aurora, like, just get to the meat and potatoes. Like, how do we actually do this? So yeah, I'm never leading anybody on. And I'm always like, I'm trying to give you the meat and potatoes. And it takes so much talking to be able to do it. And so I also, when I do the flying rainbow lasagna, I'm connecting with anyone in this class that is interested in connecting with me on a telepathic level, and even people who might not have internet access. Like, I connect telepathically with people who are in another country, who don't speak English, who don't have internet access, who are, ancient or who are future. I connect with a lot of different people. So that is, that's another part of it, that it is, I don't feel like I'm just alone floating in space when I do it. It's kind of like, going to your favorite coffee shop and reconnecting with friends and seeing all that. Like, there's now an established lasagna community. There's a whole time-wide, past, present, and future lasagna community. There's a lot of beings that are out there doing this. Okay. Joelle says, so when you're doing FRL, is it one lobe at a time, back and forth to the 8 count, and then change to a new spontaneous position? Position equals FRL orientation. Excellent question. I would say what I started out doing was, first I would do 8 up and downs, and then 8 side to sides, and then 8 in and outs, and then, add in the diagonals. But that was like saying when I first started playing the piano, I played more rudimentary songs. And now that I've gotten a lot better, the original songs are boring to me. I'm like, oh, that's not very challenging at all. So what I'll do now is I might do one flange up, one flange side, one flange in, one flange side, one flange up, one flange down, diagonal, diagonal. And I'm always mixing it up, because it feels very much like there are adversaries that are trying to come at me when I'm doing there's resistance. That's what I'm trying to say. I earn my flying rainbow lasagna muscles because I'm facing resistance. Just like if you do weight training, you're doing resistance. So there are these thought forms that are in the world that are trying to resist this. So in order to supersede them, I have to keep on innovating. So that means, oh, yesterday I might have done up, down, side, side, but now I've got to do side, up, in, out in order to get around them. And that's what it is. I'm trying to encourage everyone that no matter what adversaries or obstacles are coming at you, there's a way for you to innovate your way around it. And that innovation in the abstract sense is like, it's like making a new computer program. And then you go into reality after I do the dance, I've completed my flying rainbow lasagna dance, and I'm like, wow, I'm hungry, I need to eat some granola or something good, right? And then I'm in the world, and I recognize that the things that I danced in my abstract dance are now reverberating out into the world. And the limitations, or the things that we don't want to be there, or any of the things we need to supersede, we can transcend them with these new dance movements, with new thought forms, with new behaviors, with new approaches, with new levels of consciousness. This is the thing. It's more powerful than any technology. It is more powerful than the Large Hadron Collider. It's more powerful than any kind of magic elixir or drug, or neural lace or anything that anyone could possibly take. So it's not just like I do my meditation and then it's abstract, and then I go back to the regular world where everything is a pile of crap. It's like, oh, I do my meditation, and then I watch the pile of crap improve and change. And I've done this for years, so I've been able to see the incremental change for many years, and it's wonderful. And sometimes something that I danced about years ago comes into being now, but sometimes it's instantaneous, where I dance about it in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I see the evidences of my dances. And this is cosmic lovemaking. It's just another reason why when I do the flying rainbow lasagna, first of all, it's always a high wire act. It is always risky. Like, I don't go surfing, I don't go in the ocean, but there's a nearby beach, and I go there sometimes in Chiqui, and I walk along the beach, and we watch the surfers, and it's like, it's always dangerous. There's always that possibility of being hit in the head, or drowning, or breaking their spine, or whatever it is. Every time they do it, they have to be an expert. They have to be like, okay, we're going to do the surfing. We got to be safe. We got to be fun. We got to come back in one piece. That is what it's like to do flying rainbow lasagna. You know, I always tell everyone we do the Merkaba first, and it's a tightrope walk. You are rearranging reality. You're making new things happen. That is not a little thing. That's a big thing. It's like going surfing in the waves of probability. And so you have to be safe. You have to protect yourself. You have to be focused, and also so focused on your success that there's no room for any kind of lack of success. So being a tightrope walker, you don't look down and think like, oh my God, what if I fell down there? You think like, I am looking in the exact direction that I wish to go, and I do not even think at all, entertain any possibilities of falling over. And if an errant thought comes in that's like, what if you fell over? Then what do? We do the erasing and rearranging, do a page break, and then start again. And that's reality creation. And it's like a form of cosmic lovemaking. So, you know, I would like to share it with people, and I like to do it in front of people. It is an intimate act, and it's also something that every time you do it, there's a risk, or you have to manage the risk of doing it. So it is not something that is just for feeding the ego. Like to show everyone, like to be like, I'm so great, I want to show you this thing I can do, like someone who wants to do like a backflip and impress everyone, and then everyone will clap and say, you did a good backflip. It's not like that. And it's actually transcending the ego in order to even do the flying rainbow lasagna, to get into that mind state, just like getting into yoga and deep levels of meditation, you transcend your ego. So you're not in that mental mind state being like, I'm so transcendent, you know, you're not like that. You're like in that mind state, just being transcended. So that it's a different approach than the ego-based approach that most people are used to, which is why it's kind of like, why don't you like make a video about how you're so transcendent? Because I'm so transcendent. But when I'm in that mind state, I'm so transcendent. So, okay. Cece says, wow, Aurora, thank you for this spectacular, miraculous FRL class and freedom. Awesome. So inspiring. Love to you, Cheeky, and everyone. I knew as a child we weren't supposed to die. Thank you for that confirmation. And I'll keep on affirming that, keep on sending that out to you and everyone. If we didn't have to die, and if we didn't have to eat other things that, you know, we didn't have to kill other things to eat them and stay alive, imagine how profoundly our reality will change. And that is part of this combination of spirit and matter. We no longer have to eat something and kill it and stick it in our tummy and use it like steam engine power. We run completely on light, on thought energy. And that's a profound transformation. Our entire economy will change and transform to being more like the antediluvian economy that's based on thought energy. How good are your thoughts? You want to make money, you don't just make stuff and then sell it to other people. If you want to make money or be abundant, how good are your thoughts? How good is your thought energy? How pristine is the thought energy that you send out? Okay, Sally says, to my previous question, what I meant is, how does one activate one's higher faculties? Is it mainly through meditation? So I did this in the class that was lesson 5 about meditation. That in order to activate your higher faculties, the first thing is, this is like a foundation that creates a whirling vortex at the level of your heart. That is literally a foundation of energy upon which these other building blocks of your higher faculties are placed or balanced. So the very first thing is getting enough gas in your car to make your car go. And that means practicing inner silence, because every time we have verbalized internal dialogue, the verbalization is like friction. If you have an engine that is not efficient, it will emit heat and sound as a byproduct of friction. And if you have a perfectly efficient engine, then there's no heat, there's no friction, there's no sound, and all of the energy that you put into it is emitted out of it. So our minds, when we're thinking, I'm thinking like, I have to wake up and make the coffee, I have to go do the dishes, I have to this and that. Usually my thoughts are like a laundry list of chores. Every time I think, that's like friction. It's showing a reduction of the perfect functioning of my overall engine of my body. So reducing thought friction, going towards inner silence, and being able to produce the tone. Unconditional love is a tone that we make when we move through time at just the right moment of breakthrough time. So that tone is created when we're not clinging to the past and not grasping for the future. So it is an embodiment. It's being in the present moment now. And when you're really in the present moment now, it is so profound that I think it's a little intimidating or scary to a lot of people. I think a lot of people like to be a little bit distracted, because when you're not distracted at all and you're really here now, it's like when you're really looking someone in the eye. You're like, wow, like I'm really connecting with that person. I'm really looking at them. I'm really feeling them. I'm really looking at every freckle on their face. It's almost too intense. It can be a little overwhelming. So you kind of be like, okay, like don't stare directly at that person. Don't connect so profoundly. I think in the same way, when people are connecting profoundly with time in the moment now, it becomes so profound. It's almost overwhelming. It's like I can hear the molecules hitting my eardrums. I can feel everything. I can feel what's happening outside of like it becomes a lot. So to be able to integrate that level of perception in reality can be intimidating. And I think that is something that can take practice. Oh, that is wonderful. Gala says that she does her FRL in the gym. I advocate that totally. When I have meditated, trying to sit peacefully in one place and just meditate, that is not the type of meditation that works for me. I'm much more active. So I like the type of thing where either I'm walking, when I do walking with Cheeky, that helps me out a lot. Any kind of repetitive thing. Sometimes if I've gone to gyms and there's like elliptical things where you don't really have to be like focusing on what your body is doing. You just kind of, the machine, you just kind of like riding on a bicycle or being on an elliptical, that type of thing really helps me also. And also doing my artwork. when I have a painting laid out and I know like, okay, I now have to paint all of these things red dots or all of these things purple, then I just do it. And that it's just like playing music too. There are ways of being active and engaged with my environment, and I'm not bored, and I'm doing stuff and I don't have to think, and there's no friction. So I would encourage everyone to find the exact activities there, silent seated meditation is wonderful, and see if you can also find the active forms of meditation that are effective. I joked, someone once told me washing the dishes was their form of meditation. I'm like, come meditate at my house anytime, because I don't like to have to wash the dishes. But for some people, a little task like that works. Or knitting. I knew a lot of people actually that would do knitting as their form of focus and meditation, and you focus, and also at the same time, you get a scarf, which is pretty cool. Pedro said, oh, wait. This is another thing. Salu says, when you do the FRL, are you creating extra space within your own consciousness, as they say, yoga of perception? Yes, you are literally adding another dimension within yourself. That is the dimension where my finger is wiggling right now. You get another dimension, and it's inside of you. And every time you get this additional dimension, you get an additional degree of freedom. So this is another thing that we're understanding here. It is not transporting yourself to another world. It is the embodiment of another world. You don't have to go somewhere else. You don't have to fly there in a spaceship. You don't have to drink an elixir in order to go there. It is transforming your own container and embodying that higher dimensional state in your own container while we're here. And doing that is a magical act that literally redefines what it is to be alive. We don't have to become decrepit. We don't have to ever feel disease. We don't have to hit the membrane of death. And matter responds to thought. This becomes more of like a magical world of pure imagination, a dream, a fun, happy adventure. And, a little bit with using Cheeky as an example, when I first got her, it's been about a year, she was very barky and reactive. She had a lot of ups and downs in her life. She'd been in shelters and fosterage and all this kind of stuff. And it's taken a long time for me to encourage her and get her to understand life's a fun adventure. And now every day we do something fun, like go to a park and play with children, or whatever. We do chores, but I call them adventures so that they're not choreful, they're adventures. And now she's like, I'm ready to go in the CAR because we're going to do fun adventures. Like, now life is a fun adventure. So what I'm trying to say is, for us humans, we're coming out of a time of being greatly abused, where we haven't been in charge of our bodies, our trajectory through time. And it's like, oh my, like, what's the next horrible thing that's going to happen? Always cringing in fear or lashing out in, proactive violence or aggression, which was what Cheeky was doing. And now it takes time for humans to understand, hey, because of flying rainbow lasagna, you have a whole new approach to life, and life can be a fun adventure. It's not like, oh, you're just going to have a grim death march and then fall over and die. It's not like that. You actually get to be totally engaged in reality creation and make it a fun, wonderful reality. And then instead of waking up in the morning and being like, oh no, the horrible things are going to happen and I have to go to my job, you wake up in the morning and you're like, hooray, I can't wait to see what the next fun adventure is of the day. Which is how Cheeky wakes up. But then she has a small breakfast, and then she goes back to bed for another brief nap, and then we have real adventures of the morning. So Pedro says, as a child in school, oh, thank you, sweetie, I was always worried the teacher would ask me a question, and most of the time I did get asked. Then I realized that maybe if I would not be asked, and after that I got asked very few times, who knew I was creating my reality since then? I think that's a wonderful example, and I think that we have to give way more credit to young people and even pets, animals, for creating their reality. Cheeky is a master manifester. I don't know if I told you guys this little anecdote. We walked around town after dark when it was very hot out, and we were walking around past the ice cream shop, and this guy was outside sitting in the little chairs eating his ice cream, and he just spontaneously gave Cheeky a lick off of his ice cream cone while we were walking by. And to her, like, I don't have ice cream in my house. We don't have that type of food here. That was the most magical thing that ever happened, because we're always walk past there and she smells it and she's like, oh, there's something really good there, but I never get to eat it. And on this occasion, she got to eat it. So it's like, you know something, I think all of us, everything that has consciousness, every organism that is here that has consciousness, including the planet, has the capacity to be a magical manifester. And I don't condescend to children or dogs or microbes. Their dreams are valid dreams. Cheeky dreams of mini hot dogs and, you know, waffles and ice cream and wontons. She dreams of things that are important to her. Hey, I dream of getting lots of art supplies and displaying my artwork in galleries and museums and, you know, having wonderful fun adventures in the art world. Everybody has their version of mini hot dogs, and it's all beautiful. It's all valid. I hope Ben is agreeing with me. Yes, real sustained eye contact is so profound, yet I have known very few who can tolerate it. That's what it is. When we have real sustained eye contact with the cosmos, that's cosmic lovemaking. And we're profoundly connected with the moment now. And magical, really magical things happen. I think most people have to take a type of drug to have the experience, but some people have the experience just spontaneously or through meditation. Or I know someone who had the experience just by being in the presence of the Dalai Lama when he gave a speech at our little town. Joelle says, so aside from sitting down in lotus pose and closing your eyes and sitting still, do what helps you personally to get quiet inside. Absolutely. That is a perfect synopsis of how to do this. There's schools of meditation, like some people say use a mantra, or some people like, you know, sit in a particular position or do particular yoga poses or whatever you need to do, but find the things that work for you. So yeah, for me, it's usually been doing something active, but not something choreful and boring like the dishes. It's usually something that stimulates me just enough, like walking around town or doing my artwork, that I'm not bored, I feel totally engaged, and I feel like my mind doesn't have to run in order for me to do what I need to do. And I can do that for hours at a time. Like my happiest, best days, not that I don't love doing my videos here, but my best, easiest days are when like all I have to do is paint. I put on awesome music, or I put music on my speakers, put on my favorite, and just paint, paint, paint. And I'm just like, screw you world, all I have to do is paint. And that's an easy day for me. Ben says, this could be answered off record, as this may be related slightly off topic. I've recently drawn much inspiration from the first book of Ringing Cedars, and I'm curious to know your take on Anastasia, if you're familiar with the books. I haven't read the books. Many people have recommended them to me, and some people even said that they, I remind them of Anastasia, the character or the writer. So thank you for that. But no, I'm not familiar with them, but I think that there might be some good inspiration in there. So I'm through with all of the Q&A. It's a long upload, so I'm going to end the recording for right now, but then keep on going with our questions in the chat. And let me just say a profound thank you to everyone who is in the class, who makes beautiful comments on YouTube. I have wonderful comments on YouTube. Thank you to everyone for your insight and your participation. And please continue to tune in. And I always give my enrollment links. I encourage everyone to enroll. And even if you check out, there are lessons enabled for free preview, so you can get an idea of how they are structured, and they're really worth looking into. So thank you very much. We'll just end this for right now. Thank you so much, everyone.